Welcome to the NFL Coast to Coast podcast brought to you by TheLines.com. Coming to you from the West Coast, Josh Lander, joined by Nate Weitzer. He's on the East Coast, and it is Super Bowl time. We've got some playa props here for the big game on Sunday. We are recording this on Friday, so those are the markets that we have available to us right now with those odds. Obviously, things changing by the minute here with the Super Bowl as plenty of money coming in. So make sure you are checking out those lines and the updated movement on all that stuff as you're betting on these NFL player props here in the Super Bowl. We have got 4 plays each and a couple looks even more than that. So we've got plenty of action in this episode for you guys. Remember to subscribe to that page, though. Plenty of NFL stuff coming out over the weekend and plenty already on the YouTube channel here on TheLines.com. So hopefully you guys are taking full advantage of everything we're bringing you. Nate, let's go ahead, run right into your first look here for the Super Bowl.
Yeah, and we both went 2-1 on conference championship week. Pretty good. That I think the ones that lost were fringe guys like Noah Gray, who if you were targeting there. But feel good here. Not just player props. We got a few game props for sure.
Yeah. Can I also throw one thing out? It was an insanely hilarious end to that game. We were about to get the Pat Mahomes under in that championship game. Threw the last pass to Samaje Perine, went over, then kneeled down twice and still couldn't quite get us under there because the 2 kneel downs almost brought us to the under. It was a hugely bad beat. Just wanted to put that out there.
Yeah, if you got the Mahomes over, you are a luck box, and so is Patrick Mahomes at times because the Bills got that first down and they should have had the ball right down to the end. But moving on, he's in the Super Bowl yet again. Let's take Devontae Smith, 51.5 receiving yards. Who, despite all the buzz I've heard about him, I'm surprised his numbers are kind of holding steady. I think people are still doubting Jalen Hurts' ability to deliver the ball down the field, but Devontae should be open. I mean, like the idea that like if Spags dares Hurts to go to the air a lot, which he did last Super Bowl, he attempted 38 passes, passed for 304. I don't think it's just going to be all AJ Brown because Trent McDuffie wasn't in his own at that point, and now McDuffie on AJ Brown. Everybody knows that Hurts wants to go to AJ Brown because they had that tiff, and it's just like all eyes are going to be on him. So let's take the other guy who thrives against this zone that the Chiefs have run zone at the 8th highest rate. He has an 80 PFF grade against the zone, and that's part of why he's roasted Spags' defense each time. He had 7 for 100 in the Super Bowl 2 years ago. He averaged 110 in 2 regular season matchups against Spags with 6.5 catches per game. So there's some interesting markets for him. I mean, if he were to get 109 yards, he could pass De'Ami Brown for most yards in the playoffs. If then Goddard does not get 42 to also pass him, that's 40-1 for Devontae Smith to get that. He's 6-1 to lead the Super Bowl in receiving. But I'm thinking, I'm not going to fade Saquon Barkley, but I just think the Chiefs are not going to be run over the way the Rams and the Commanders were, where they just like missing tackles, they just didn't have the front 7 personnel to deal with Saquon. The Chiefs both have that, and they're going to deploy it aggressively to be like, all right, let's see what you can do, Hurts. So I think we'll get more passing than we expect usually from the Eagles, and that means Devontae, who's like a 90% route runner, and just clear top 2 target rate. I mean, between these 2 guys, Brown and Smith, it's just all those 2 guys versus the Chiefs got like 6 guys running out there. I trust Devontae to get his looks.
Yeah, 40-1, pretty incredible look there for Devontae Smith. 109 yards that gets you there, like you said. Not trusting that Dallas Goedert doesn't have a good game by some stretch of the imagination, but yeah, I still think Devontae Smith 51.5 yards is a value play. But let's go to the same side of the ball here, but take another over for Hurts on rushing attempts specifically. Over 9.5 attempts for him in this game. You can still get that for plus money on DraftKings as well. So I'm still getting really good value there. He's had some time now to heal up that knee, which is why we're not quite looking at him as someone who you should have to worry about rushing anymore. He should be able to do that at this point. Looked pretty good versus Washington on it. Had the 10 rushing attempts, bunch of tush pushes, but obviously you get tush push and kneel downs as the helpful there to the rush attempts. So keep that in mind. Obviously, Saquon Barkley is going to be the focal point of this defense, and that's going to continue to be something that defenses have to worry about more than anything. They really need to sell out, put all those guys in the box, and get those players out there for Saquon. He's down to 109.5 on the rush yards. couldn't get over in the last game because it was up at a buck 20. Still got pretty damn close. So like you said a minute ago, I don't think anyone's trying to fade Saquon, even when his numbers get this high against a good rush defense. But it kind of seems like at this point, especially in the playoffs, Jalen Hurts is a guy that doesn't trust his reads quite as much and won't necessarily let that thing fly if he doesn't feel really comfortable that he's got a really good option there that's not going to get picked off or tipped, right? He's only at 23 pass attempts per game in the playoffs because he's going to take off when it's not there. And we can rely on that being his focus a lot in this one too. The KC pass defense, especially, there's not going to be those throwing lanes, right? And we're talking about how he doesn't feel that comfortable without big, wide, open throwing lanes. This defense right now is going to be one that you continue to see really cover each zone of the field pretty well. If you look at the way that they've had to use the rushes for Jalen Hurts against this team, especially 15 for 70 yards in the Super Bowl versus KC a couple years ago, kind of highlights what we're talking about there. Then in the NFC Championship game of that year, 11 rushes for the 39 yards to get them there. So we're at the point of the season where it does seem like things tighten up, and that means that a guy like Hurts is a lot more willing to use his legs to throw the ball into tight windows and make those mistakes to give a guy like Mahomes a short field. You give Mahomes a short field, you're cooked, obviously. And like we said, tush push, kneel downs, also going to help us out. And if the Eagles do win this game, Hurts is at plus 350 for the MVP, which feels pretty good with the pass and rush ability for him in this one. And if you wanted to take a touchdown, I mean, it opened at minus 105 for the anytime touchdown for Hurts as a rush or receiving, obviously. But it's minus 120 now. Still, if you think that there's going to be 2 tush pushes near the goal line in this game, I still think minus 120 probably worth it. If you get a better number than that, I would say definitely worth it as well.
Yeah, it's a good parlay partner for anything is the Hurts touchdown. I mean, I thought about Hurts and Barkley touchdown parlays the last few games being like, I know it's the same team, but like the Eagles aren't really scoring any other way. Like yeah, if there's 2 tush pushes at the goal line, that's 2 touchdowns, first of all. So like they are not stopping that, even though they stopped Josh Allen, the Chiefs did on those tush pushes. Like, no. But Hurts, yeah. I mean, the intriguing thing was like, how healthy is he after he exploded for that long touchdown run against the Rams? By the way, I think there's a record on the line. If you find the record specials for a quarterback to rush for like 21 yards, which would be a Super Bowl record as a run, that gives you plus odds at some places. And I think Hurts is definitely capable of that, definitely capable of topping 38 rushing. I think he'll look pretty good. Like he just didn't have to do anything against Washington when Saquon breaks the first one for 60 yards. So like this game, he's going to have to use his legs. We're going to have to see how healthy he is. Over the last couple weeks. So I will fade the Chiefs rushing as a team, which is just fantastic that we get to bundle this all together at 109.5 was where I saw it last. I think people are hitting this, pumping it down because like, who are we scared of? Kareem Hunt, who, yes, had a nice game rushing against Buffalo, and the team did get over this. They got to 135. The Bills' defensive line got whooped, honestly, and some questionable coaching from Sean McDermott's bunch. I mean, they were just outfoxed from the beginning. They're like, Andy Reid was just a step ahead of them. They just didn't know what to do there. But you go at the previous game for the Chiefs, their offensive line got whooped by Houston, and they rushed for 50 as a team. And now enter Jordan Davis, Jalen Carter to just negate your strength, which is on the interior offensive line. I don't think you're going to be power running up the middle against that unit. I mean, the Chiefs haven't been power running against anybody, really. If you look at their last 8 regular season games, they went under 100. I mean, they really went under 90 in 5 of those, like not even close. Hunt, his last 5 regular season, 30 yards a game, 3.4 carry. Pacheco, 35, and he's been even worse lately. He's been phased out completely. So if you're looking at the over here, like you're banking on Mahomes to bail you out with like 45, 50 rushing yards when his prop's 29.5. I don't see that happening against these Eagles linebackers who, led by Zach Bond, are just one of the best side-to-side units in terms of wrangling the quarterback, getting them down. Just played Jaden Daniels, by the way. And only Jaden times 3 and Lamar have eclipsed 30 rushing yards against this defense all season. So for Mahomes to get that, I would be surprised. I'm looking at his under longest rush as well as maybe under the longest the yardage for him. And I just don't think the Chiefs running backs are going to be getting this. I mean, like maybe Worthy breaks a big one on a reverse, but I'll take my chances with that.
Yeah, it's interesting because you can get Saquon Barkley like minus 400 to lead the game in rushing yards. If you want, I think there's a pretty, and he's at 109 and a half for his individual rushing yards. So I think it's fair to say that we don't believe in the Chiefs rushing. Neither do the books, to be honest, at this point, for the way they've priced that. I wonder if there's a Saquon more rushing yards than the Chiefs. That's got to be close to even money if they were to offer that anywhere. So I'm with you on all that stuff there. Let's go to a very interesting bet that you pointed out, and I'm very, very happy to bet on this. This is total fourth down conversions for the game. So let's get freaky with it. Over 2.5 plus 120 on DraftKings for this very special market that you can get. But let's start with the Eagles. I mean, look, we're going to be seeing some tush pushes on some fourth. At least if they get a fourth down inside of 2 yards, we're getting a tush push, right? Shoot, they could be 2 yards. We'll still get that tush push on a fourth down. So we're going to look at that and just go, well, they might be able to get 2 off of that, even if we're not at the goal line for the Eagles. Like they might be able to do this thing by themselves. But I mean, if you want comparisons for this, it's minus 105 for over 2.5 first downs for this squad, and or you could get a TD via the tush push as well in another special market. So they clearly think that there's going to be tush push attempts here with the way that they're pricing these things. You can also get the Eagles by themselves over 1.5 fourth down conversions at plus money as well. Plus 120 on FanDuel for this one, same price as the 2.5 for both teams. But for the Eagles alone, the fact that they have a number at 1.5 by themselves, and we would just need the 1 from KC is very, very encouraging there. They've converted 27 fourth downs this season, 73.3%, which was third best in the league in terms of the percentage. But obviously, a ton of the 27 is massive for them and the team that's the best at it. Then you've got the 100% conversion rate for them on fourth downs in the playoffs for the Eagles as well. So things really lock in for them. And then if you look at the Chiefs, like adding 1 for them, I mean, they have basically an implied probability of minus 180 to get 1 on DraftKings, which is what, like a 63% chance probability that we think that they're going to have here to get this. Pretty nice number. They are 70% converting fourth downs on the season for them. And in the last 2 playoffs as well, you can see they're only 43% on third downs, forcing them to get to that fourth down pretty consistently. And in the last 2 playoffs alone, 5 conversions on fourth down on 7 attempts for them as well. So, I mean, look, it's the big game here where it's like, oh, if we don't go it on fourth, what happens? We lose. And then that's like, there's nothing else here. This is it. This is the last day of football that we're going to have here for a minute. So you just kind of bring it all out. 2 coaches that are beyond not scared. I don't know how to say you're the complete opposite of scared. They're both very happy and willing to go for it on fourth down with Andy Reid and Sirianni. So I think there's going to be enough attempts alone to get us to 3 here.
Sirianni definitely is willing to gamble. I mean, we've seen him on the first series of a regular season game in like week 4 be like, oh, we're going for this on 4th and 3. Andy Reid's much more conservative and traditional, I think. And I mean, part of that is because we always see his team like slightly nursing a lead. And it's like, what happens if they do get behind here at the end and Mahomes has to try to make some magic on fourth down? And then they do get a little bit more aggressive. But yeah, it's just a question of shopping this line around. Cause like you pointed out, I mean, the Eagles on their own for 2 is plus 120 at FanDuel. You might as well take that. Or you might as well take the plus 120 at DraftKings because it's just a better price because they're also implying minus 180 that the Chiefs will get 1. So either way, you're basically saying Eagles going to get 2 of these fourth and shorts, and they are the best team at it. So I like the veteran DeAndre Hopkins and the juicy price we get. Just 2 receptions, plus 126. I've seen anytime touchdowns up to plus 650. And I get it. I mean, he is way down in snap rates. He played the 4th most among wide receivers, just 12 snaps against the Bills, caught 1 ball for 11. And so they're also hanging 11.5 yards up there. But I mean, this is a 2-game sample. I know he was shut out by the Texans too, who have great outside corners, and the Eagles have great outside corners. But I mean, I think the Chiefs wanted to use a lot more Kelsey in the slot and a lot more Juju in on those crossers in both of these last 2 matchups, and I just don't think that's necessarily going to be there for the Eagles as much. I think again, all eyes will be on Kelsey in the red zone, which is why it's like pretty appealing to think about Hopkins when he first got there. With the Chiefs, he was catching a lot of these at the back of the end zone because everybody was looking at Kelsey on these short underneath things, thinking he's going to get that just over the goal line. And Mahomes had a rapport with him right away. He did have 2 catches in all 10 regular season games. DeAndre Hopkins, after being acquired, He was in the 45 to 60% snap range the last 5, even the 2 with Hollywood Brown back, who, yes, has eaten into his snaps a lot bit in these playoffs, I will recognize. But yeah, we're talking about 4 catches a game basically on 6.5 targets in those last 5 regular season. For the price to be this deflated, I think is a bit overreaction. This is, a 2-week layoff with Andy Reid cooking things up, thinking about who he wants to deploy where. This is a guy in Hopkins who has waited his whole career, his whole Hall of Fame career, for the opportunity to play in this game, and is certainly going to be out there giving 100% effort. And, I think he can still get it done, at least to the tune of a couple freaking catches.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, 2 catches, no notes really. I mean, it's like you said, it's if he's out there, the effort will be there. It's is he going to be out there? If he can get close to 60% of the snaps, then you've got to believe in like 3 to 4 targets for him as well. Be able to haul in 2 of those if he's not going too far down the field as well. Did you consider the yards here, or is you're a lot more on the receptions because of the plus money maybe?
I personally just did like some low stakes parlays with, if he gets the receptions, I think he's getting the yards too. And
Okay.
then I put like a very, very small unit adding the touchdown there, and I was like, whoa, that's like 8-1. But yeah, mostly just looking at yards and receptions.
Yep, I like where your head's at with that. Let me go to another fun sort of team prop here and take the Eagles to have under 2.5 sacks on Patrick Mahomes there. Very, very good pass rush, as we know, but very happy to back Mahomes to do his magic here. Plus, we all know his relationship with the refs probably not going to hurt him if you try to sack him and maybe you get a penalty. You hit him the wrong way, you touch him the wrong way. You're not going to be a sack. It's going to be a penalty in 15 yards. But he's taken a total of 10 sacks over his last 7 playoff games. Obviously, fewer that are just over 1 a game, I should say. 1.6 sacks per game in his career, which is only slightly more than his average in the last 7 playoff games anyway. So very, very hard to sack for a number of reasons. The very overly aggressive Eagles D also got 0 sacks against him in Super Bowl 57 that year. They led in this year. They are averaging 2.5 per game. Right at the number that we're at here. But then you get the matchup with a guy like Mahomes who's able to escape, who's able to at least get rid of the ball in the right situations and find himself outside the numbers when he needs to do that, right? And get that ball out of bounds, which is something he's very, very willing to do. This offensive line been very good protecting him all season, and now actually looks even better here as they move their guard Joe Thuney out to the left tackle spot there. And he has been a complete, obviously just doing his job here, man. At this point, keeping Mahomes from getting sacked too often at that point as well. So I do think that the sacks, they kind of indicate that like you might think that this Eagles team is going to get way more points because of that. But I still think we've seen plenty of sort of the QB spy, plenty of the stuff with the zone for this KC team as well, having their eyes for the Eagles rather, having their eyes on Mahomes in this situation. Like, yeah, he might not be able to get too many rushing yards, but I don't know if they're going to get him in the backfield is my point, right? He's going to be able to get away from those things. So I just like the under 2.5 sacks. You get minus 115 on DraftKings. Pretty good value there.
Yeah, I mean, it's all about Vic Fangio, the seasoned defensive coordinator, how he wants to play Mahomes. He's 0-8 in his career against Mahomes, and yeah, no sacks in the soup. Well, he wasn't the DC there, excuse me.
Right.
But I mean, yeah, I think I think what you're on here is that they're gonna spy him a little bit more and just try to like corral him and keep him under this 30 rushing total. That would kind of break their back. And this is a different team than we saw in the Super Bowl 2 years ago. I mean, it's obviously under a different coordinator. They were so much more aggressive back then. I don't think they'll be sending a lot of blitzes. I think they'll be rushing with 4. They'll be getting interior pressure from their best guys on the D tackle position, and that just flushes Mahomes out. And then he's not one of those dumb quarterbacks who's just going to take a sack once you're out of the pocket. Like he's either getting out of bounds or he's throwing it away. Like I'm just like baffled some of these times when I see quarterbacks take a sack when it's like, you could just throw it. You can just throw it over somebody's head, like way out over there. In any case, De'Ami Brown is not playing in this game, but you can bet on him still to be the leading receiver for the playoffs at plus 270. And it's an intriguing hedge here to just take that and then also take Dallas Goedert on his over 49.5. Because if Goddard, maybe you weigh out the unit so that if Goddard does get 50 plus, you make more money back then. But this is basically a bet on Goddard going under 42 yards because that's what he needs to pass De'Ami Brown, and everybody else would kind of need a huge game. about 100-yard game to pass him. So it's basically a plus 270 bet on fading Goddard just a little bit below his total. And everybody's on Goddard. I mean, because he is, he's had 3 great games in a row. We've seen how Hurts targets him. The Chiefs give up X amount of yards to tight ends, whatever. Usually when everybody's on a guy like that and there's 2 weeks of build up, I'm gonna be like, yeah, let's see what happens. Like I'm not quite sure about that. I mean, Kelsey would need 94 yards. Again, I think there's just too many eyes on him for the Eagles to get roasted like that. I think they'll do a pretty good job on Worthy, who needs 100 yards. I think they just limit explosive plays too much to allow that to happen. Devontae Smith, I pointed out at the top of the show, plus 4,000 to get 109 and pass Brown. I would be interested in that at those kind of ridiculous odds. But I think, yeah, the way to play this is just like take the over on Goddard, take this number to stay where it's at. And I think either way, you can walk away with some profit.
Yeah, for sure. I think it all makes sense. I think what's interesting is like if you're gonna bet on him to win, maybe if you can, I don't know if you'll be able to parlay it with too much stuff, but there's gonna be so many correlated things that happen that you could bet it both ways. You could say Devontae Smith 110 plus yards combined with him to win the most receiving yards, or you could take Goddard, with the yards, but just if you could parlay the play here of him with the playoff leading receiver with some of the stuff that you expect to happen in this game, it's a smart way to do things because it's like it'd be a binary situation. Either he's going to do both of these or he's going to do none of these, which is be the leader and get this many yards, or not and fail to get that many yards. So take a look at some of that. I doubt they'll let you parlay too much together with those fun props like that, like team props and such, or leader props. But take a look at it. Either way, I like where your head's at with it because I love when we can take advantage of these situations because it's just math at this point. But either way, I'm going to go to finish this off with a fun cross sport special here that's going to involve a game between the 76ers and the Bucks on the same day that we've got the Eagles and the Chefs playing in the Super Bowl. So I'm going to take Tyrese Maxey to minus 3.5 in terms of how many points he's going to score versus how many points the Eagles as a team are going to score. So Maxey and the Bucks are going to be playing, or Maxey and the 76ers at versus the Bucks at 2 p.m. God, I mean, 25. He'll probably be it depends on if Joel is playing. It'll probably be at about 23.5, maybe 24.5 points for the prop for Tyrese Maxey. Very good matchup against a team that cannot limit point guards, cannot limit pull-up shots, can't really limit stuff above the break. Do not trust the Bucks defense right now, and they've got some stuff fluctuating as well as Chris Middleton's not on the team anymore. I'm wary of the Bucks. I wouldn't be betting on them today as we record this on Friday either, to be honest with you. But I think it's all about Maxey scoring a little bit more than even the Eagles. Their team total is at 24.5. I think Maxey's good for 25. Like I think he should be close to 24.5 as well. So I mean, minus 3.5. It's a little bit high there for the math that I'm talking about here. But one, it's a way better matchup than it is for even Joel Embiid because this Bucks team is super good at limiting centers. They're in the top 3 limiting both centers points and rebounds. 2, we don't know if Joel Embiid is playing. So let's make that very, very clear that if he does not play, our man's going for 30 in this game. I mean, he's been going for 30. I believe he has a 30 in like 7 of his last 8 games. I think one of which has been with Joel. So yeah, like I'm not worried about Tyrese Maxey continuing to carry this team. For the Eagles and their points, we kind of talked about it like both teams being somewhat cautious outside of like Sirianni and the Eagles going for it on 4th down. We see this game as a lot more of like, don't let the other team beat you with big plays. Don't let the other team get downfield in chunk yardage, right? Like keep everything in front of you, keep Mahomes in front of you, keep Hurts in front of you as much as you can. There's a reason we didn't go for Hurts rushing yards as much as we just went for the attempts. Like we think he's going to be doing it, but that's going to keep the clock running as well. A few more pass plays, fewer incompletions because he's able to take off with his legs and keep the play alive. So I do think that's all just going to lead to longer time of possession, longer drives, fewer drives, and a lot more, like I said, of guys keeping things in front of them so there aren't big yardage plays. So that's also another good reason to like the points to stay relatively low in this Super Bowl and probably below 50 or so around that area, in which case Tyrese Maxey, we just really like him to get 30, man, to be honest, especially because right now, the way I see this, don't know if Joel, I think it's legit 50-50 if Joel plays, and even if he does, just like we said, way better matchup for a scoring guard who can get into the lane. So love this play for Maxey to outscore the Eagles by 4.
Yeah, 37 for Maxey last month against the Bucks when he had nobody around to help him, and they lost by 14. And now Sixers are playing really good ball, and yeah, he's been on a streak of 30 plus. I agree because I think the Super Bowl is going to be played in the 20s. I don't think it's at all going to be like 2 years ago where it was 38-35. That's just not the way the Chiefs play anymore. That's not the way the Eagles play right now. I mean, just don't be fooled by their explosion against Washington. Like, this is a
Yeah.
team that just limits stuff defensively, that grinds the clock offensively. So, like the under for the game in general, and I think this is some value on that Eagles team total.
Yep, I totally agree, and we'll probably continue to see points in these Bucks games as well that give us some high totals. So that's all the time we have for you, though, in this Super Bowl episode here with these player props. Definitely make sure to subscribe to that page. Going to be having plenty more come out on the channel here. Matt Brown and the guys going to have plenty of action for you guys. So best of luck, and until we see you next, happy betting.